Now, Hari Srinivasan catches up with comedian and documentary filmmaker Hari Kondabolu to look at the effects of exclusion and stereotyping in American comedy, entertainment, and media. They focus on the treatment of South Asians, as seen in the character Apu of The Simpsons, the longest-running primetime scripted series on TV. It's part of our ongoing series, Race Matters.
We've had an amazing run the last few years with more Indians in the public eye than ever before. There's like 14 of us now. Oh, hey, how'd I get up there? That's progress in real time.
Comic Hari Kondabolu has been thinking about how he fits into America as the son of immigrants for quite some time. Here he is in 2012 on the Totally Biased with W. Kamau Bell show.
Growing up, I had no choice but to like this. Yeah. Apu, a cartoon character voiced by Hank Azaria, a white guy.
Kondabolu felt so strongly about the negative stereotype perpetuated by Apu from The Simpsons, he decided to make a documentary about the impact the cartoon character has had.
I should be completely happy, but there's still one man who haunts me, Apu Nahasapima Petalon.
Please pay for your purchases and get out and come again.
How many of you had to deal with being called Apu or that being referenced?
Since the documentary aired on True TV, Kondabolu has moved on to a Netflix stand-up special, tackling issues like race relations in the age of Trump.
And I know they're Trump supporters, because after the hate crimes, they yell, Trump!
Diverse people from all over the world.
We met in Jackson Heights, a neighborhood in Queens with a high South Asian population. Kondabolu grew up near here. He has an unconventional background for a comedian. He worked as an immigrant rights organizer in Seattle and got his master's in human rights from the London School of Economics.
You get the full experience.
We sat down at a local Indian snack shop to talk about his new special and The Simpsons' response to his documentary.
I think, first of all, I was surprised The Simpsons even responded. Do you know what I mean? I made a film that I felt was heartfelt and very genuine and funny and like a love letter to my community.
Because you're a fan of The Simpsons.
Love The Simpsons. Grew up on The Simpsons. I would say a ton of, a lot of my sensibilities come from watching that show every night when I was a kid. Because of The Simpsons, so I imagine they would have come up with something clever, and instead it was just kind of like, we don't care. We don't care what you have to say. I don't even think they saw the movie.
Something that started decades ago and was applauded and inoffensive is now politically incorrect. What can you do?
Some things will be dealt with at a later date.
If at all.
Did it upset you?
It upset me as a Simpsons fan, not so much as an Indian American. Lisa wouldn't say that. Lisa would have been the ultimate social justice warrior. She would have been the first one on my side. Now all of a sudden it feels like, they threw her under the bus.
You try to get, throughout the film, you try to get a response from Hank Azaria. And he didn't in the film, but he did say something on Colbert.
I really want to see Indian, South Asian writers in the room, not in a token way, but genuinely informing whatever new direction this character may take, including how it is voiced or not voiced. I'm perfectly willing and happy to step aside or help transition it into something new. I really hope that's what The Simpsons does.
When you saw that, what went through your mind?
It would have been great if he said that to me in the film, but I thought it was really gracious and thoughtful, and he definitely had thought about, the reason why this is important to us is we wanted to be seen as valid. You also got a sense that Hank doesn't make these choices.
Are you sure you want a child, Apu?
I do.
There comes a time in a man's life when he asks himself,
Who will float my corpse down the Ganges?
So that's you guys.
Today you look like Apu today somehow.
No, that's not funny.
Do either of you identify with that character in any way?
No.
I don't think so.
Does it bother you at all that it's a white actor that does the voice of Apu?
Hank Azaria is a talented guy. They paid him, he did it. And he did it good.
I still remember there was a kid in high school, Ian, I won't say his last name, but, Apu's catchphrases were used as a bludgeon against all South Asians at the time.
Yeah.
It wasn't that sophisticated, a put down, right? It was kind of cheap, and
right.
As a brown kid, you're like, that's all you got? It's sort of
Well, and that is all they had because nobody knew much about us. One thing that I've heard a lot of is, well, The Simpsons makes fun of everybody, and that can be true of any kind of comedian. Like, if you make fun of everybody, it's equal opportunity offense. What's your problem? Why can't you take a joke? I can take a joke, first of all. It's just, it's been the same joke over and over again for 30 years. Like, after a while, it's like, I know the punchline already. Right. Like, what else do you got? Yeah. And the second thing is, it's not really a fair fight if I'm not allowed to respond. The media wasn't talking about us or giving us opportunities. And secondly, I was 8 years old.
You also point out that there is a long history of minstrelsy in this country, but it seems Apu has not changed or evolved in the time that he has been in America.
I mean, I think the strange thing is, I think a character like Apu wouldn't probably be made today in that form because it's so basic. But The Simpsons is 30 years old, so this character was kind of grandfathered in.
You know that a white guy does the voice?
You were one of the first comics I remember seeing that actively chose not to do Indian accents.
First of all, I'm not really good at doing accents. So why would I go with something that isn't my strength? If I'm doing it, I'm basically doing Hank Azaria's impression, which is just his impression of Peter Sellers' impression, which is just his impression of some Indian dude he met once, maybe. And another is, I feel like my parents and a lot of immigrants already get made fun of for their accents. And there's a self-consciousness, and that's a way of silencing people. Yeah. I don't want to further that.
How do you see this documentary and this in the context of a larger conversation about immigration right now?
There's nothing wrong with being a convenience store owner, for example, but what does a real convenience store owner have to say? What are their stories? There's a million stories in this country that have not been told because we tell the same stories over and over again. If we were able to humanize each other and humanize immigrants, I think it would be harder to be okay with large groups of people being sent away, our neighbors being deported, families being split up.
We need John Brown white people that will sacrifice their money for the movement. We need John Brown white people that will sacrifice their power for the movement. We need John Brown white people that will sacrifice their lives for the movement. And people of color, we have a role in this as well. We're going to tweet about it and write Facebook posts. And
Kondabolu's stand-up often mentions his mom.
For a woman in southern India in the 70s to have her own practice as a doctor, I mean, that wasn't a common thing, and to be that, it's a huge deal. And then to have to give it up because you're getting married and then you're raising kids and you have to pick a different life. My mom had this incredible sense of humor, and she still has this incredible sense of humor, and it's a way for her to survive. I think the mom stuff on my albums and on my special, to me, are really important, partly because you hear about the immigrant parent in different people's specials, and they're just accents.
If you want to know a stereotype about Indian people that not everybody knows, it's this. Indian people love mangoes, right? You might be thinking, well, hurry, I love mangoes. No, you don't. My father ate a mango in 1973 that he bought at a roadside stall in India, and the story is the mango was very juicy. That's the whole story.
Did you think the bit about the mangoes was going to be as funny for the rest of America as it was probably for South Asians watching it?
I think that it was really successful in part because it must seem absurd to people. A fruit? When I started writing comedy, I always thought, what is going to make the majority white audience laugh? Yeah. That's what mainstream means, right? And after a while, you want to expand and be like, well, I'm a full person. I have a culture. I have things that shape me into what I am. How come I'm not talking about these things?
Yeah. In Jackson Heights, New York, for the PBS NewsHour, the other Hari in this story, Hari Srinivasan.